I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down. He should calm down.
I saw he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please? Just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber!
Wanda! Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man.
No, you won the fight.
OMG. I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube, obviously podcast form, iTunes, Spotify, our radio, etc. It's Mixed Combat Radio. I'm Matt Hunter. Obviously, we'll be discussing all things boxing today on a nightly edition of the show. Sorry, I was at the zoo with my kid today. It was lovely. Got to see the gorillas and the elephants and shit like that. It was fun. But of course, as Brew is reminding the chat and myself, rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. I think I'm going to be saying that for a while until the city feels normal again. LA has lost a great person, a special person. We talked a lot about it yesterday on our Patreon show, Trending Now. Unfortunately, just it happened when we were going to plan a show, and it was heartbreaking. It was a tough show to get through, I'll be honest. But obviously, digressing from that sad news, again, rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. Prayers to his family and his loved ones. We have a ton of boxing to get to, a ton of topics to discuss, to debate, and break down. Call in yourself if you want to debate some of these topics. 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. If you are international, add us on Skype, Mixed Combat Radio. Obviously, Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman, pay-per-view, rumors, sources, advanced talks, all the fun information, fight announcements, and fight and rumors. Obviously, we're going to break down the review. Wladimir Klitschko pulling a April Fool's joke, which, God, I'm getting sick and tired of Wladimir Klitschko being in the news and me having to talk about him. But digressing from all that, let's get into the news of the day. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, like I said, and call in on this nightly show. Solo Dolo, Food's busy with his day job, and Rob is obviously sleeping in the UK, being lame as hell. Come on, Ricky. It's late for him. You know that. He's an old man. He's like 73 years old. You know, he can't stay up with us youngins. But let's get into the news of the day. Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman, as I said. The news breaking from Mike Coppinger saying sources, Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman are in advanced talks for a pay-per-view welterweight title showdown that's being targeted for July 13th. No deal yet, but it's expected to be completed. Some sort of venues that have been thrown out there. Obviously, MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Also, I would probably throw out T-Mobile Arena on top of that. Barclays Center and Staples Center for LA. Those are the three likely locations, as confirmed by Mike Coppinger in the replies right here. Ricky in the chat saying, for fuck's sake, Rob, let us down. I know. You shouldn't be surprised by that. Let's be honest by that, Ricky. But digressing, obviously Pacquiao Thurman is the fight to make. I feel like this is pretty straightforward. I feel like PBC has always, I think, been self-aware about matchmaking, about sort of positioning fighters to big fights, and I think we sort of knew that with all the big name welterweights getting, let's be honest, tune-ups in the first quarter of this year, we knew that they were going to start matching up the winners with each other in the second quarter and the third quarter of the year. We just knew that's how it was going to do. And on top of that, we also knew that as a business model, that made the most perfect sense. And obviously, with Errol Spence, Mike Garcia numbers coming back to be right around 400,000. I think it was like 380 to 400,000 is where it sort of topped out at. But I think, again, PBC being quite self-aware of sort of their positioning, their status, so to speak. I think they're aware enough that they can make 2 big pay-per-view fights instead of maybe just one. With Spence Pacquiao as a fight, and let's say they sort of put that together as pay-per-view in July instead of Thurman, and they threw a Thurman Porter rematch together. That fight is questionable beyond pay-per-view because you already gave it to the public for free on CBS. So to then turn around and ask the consumer basically for a rematch for $75, I think would be out of the question. But now, since Spence has been sort of proven to handle pay-per-view and do decent numbers by himself with this level of opposition, I think you put a Spence Porter fight on pay-per-view, that's going to do around 300 to 400,000 pay-per-view buys. We sort of know that now. And on top of that, I think a Pacquiao-Thurman fight does really well. I mean, that can top out at 500,000, 600,000 potentially. It's a better fight than the Broner fight, which did 400,000. On top of that, Thurman's a much better draw on TV than Adrian Broner, at least in terms of basic cable, he is. So I think, again, PBC is smart enough they're, as a company, and they're self-aware enough that they realize, hey, we get 2 pay-per-view bouts here in their welterweight division that they have a basic monopoly over, except for Terrence Crawford, let's be honest. And they're going to make some big fights in July and the summertime of this year, and I can't blame them. On top of that, like I said, Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman makes a lot of sense. It's a fight that I think is also the most competitive, if we're to be honest. Thurman did not look the greatest against Josito Lopez. I know Gary from Dallas this summer listened to the show, all, smirking to himself, saying, Keith Thurman, he ain't that good. And hey, let's be honest. I think if we saw a Spence Thurman fight or a Thurman Porter rematch, we might not pick Thurman in that fight. But Thurman against a still old but still an extremely talented Manny Pacquiao is a far more competitive fight than Pacquiao Spence, Pacquiao Porter, or Thurman Spence and Thurman Porter. I think, to be honest, this is the best matchmaking they could have done at this point. Ricky in the chat saying you can't judge Thurman off of one comeback fight. To be honest, good point. He was out for a while. You have to give him that. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. But I'm just saying, me and you, Ricky, might be able to have that nuanced take on it. But we have to admit that the perception from the public, or at least the majority of the public, would be Thurman is not where he once was. That is at least the perception right now today. And Thurman has to fight and look better than he did against Lopez in order to change that. And I would say the Pacquiao fight is probably the best opponent for him to do that. And honestly, again, it's a passing torch moment. Thurman, even though I would say Spence has largely overtaken his momentum in the welterweight division, at least on the PBC side, Thurman is still the guy that beat Danny and Porter. So I think because of that, he is still sort of like the legacy in the division, at least from the young PBC stable, at least from the contemporaries, from him, Danny, Sean Porter, and Errol Spence. He is still sort of the legacy top guy of that group. So him being the representative of them fighting Manny Pacquiao makes sense to me in a lot of ways, not only from a competitive standpoint, from a more of a storyline, from more of a narrative perspective for the division. Pacquiao Thurman just makes far more sense to me. Zulu in the chat saying, I think Thurman has lost his mojo. That could definitely be true. Thurman's a guy that I mean, I've always compared him to Ricky Williams, the running back from the Miami Dolphins back in the day. A guy that could easily at any point just say, you know what, I don't really need this anymore. I made enough money. I've invested it wisely. I live below my means. I'm hippie enough. I smoke enough weed enough that I really don't care. Let's be honest. Thurman could just walk away from the sport at any point. So I definitely think there is something to that. Pittsburgh Brew in the chat saying Thurman ain't hungry no more. Just like Manny ain't the savage he was. I'm not gonna finish the rest of that, Brew. But the funny part about Manny not being the savage he was, you're absolutely right about that, Brew. But he has really fine-tuned his craft to still be highly efficient. Maybe he was just fighting Adrian Broner, and it's easy to look good against Adrian Broner. But I mean, guys like Jesse Vargas look good against Adrian Broner, and Manny Pacquiao still beat Jesse Vargas easily, Broner easily, Timothy Bradley in the third fight easily. Yes, Pacquiao's lost sort of that fire to be that savage, devastating volume puncher, but he is still a technician in the ring. Thurman, meanwhile, looked sloppy at times against Lopez. Like, he looked almost like a old man, a out-of-shape man fighting, if that makes sense. More so than an old guy that's fine-tuned his craft to be efficient, a la Vladimir Klitschko towards the end of his reign. Larry Holmes towards the end of his reign, or others, even like Ali in a sense, right? But digressing, Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman, pay-per-view, July. It's not done yet. They're in advanced talks. It makes the most sense in the world to me. And on top of that, it's a fun fight. Probably the best fight you can make of the group right now in terms of just relevance, in terms of story, in terms of narrative, in terms of competitiveness. It's fun. And plus, if that means we get Spence Porter, and that's what I'm leaning towards, unless somehow Danny comes out here and knocks out Granados in spectacular fashion, and they make that the next fight. Whatever happens with Spence next is going to be fun as well, let's be honest. Whether it's Porter or Danny Garcia. We'll be interested to see what they do with the odd man out of that group, though. If we get Spence Porter and Danny's the odd man out, what happens with Danny Garcia? I bet Brew's going to have some idea about that in the chat, being a resident Danny Garcia fan. Shout out to him thinking Danny beat Keith Thurman. It's okay. It's okay, man. Love you, Brew. I remember that night so well. That was brutal for you. That was just not a good fight either. But digressing from that, let's move on to shitting on Klitschko, because Klitschko needs to be shitted on, guys. Obviously, the report being from sportarena.com from Ukraine saying that Klitschko's coming back May 25th on DAZN. That has now been confirmed to be an April Fool's joke. But Mike Coppinger has come out and said Vladimir Klitschko is still weighing a lucrative offer from DAZN, so yes, it is April Fool's. He is not fighting on May 25th as of now. That is not happening. That is not official. But he is still thinking about this big deal from DAZN. Where does that come to fruition? Where do we get some finalization about what happens with Klitschko? I have no idea. I don't think anyone has any idea what Klitschko's going to do. And I don't think DAZN knows. I don't think even Klitschko knows. At this point, almost like with Triple G at one point with his negotiations, I just stopped caring. It's no longer news. Like the announcement of, because even though the April Fool's joke ended up being an announcement of basically nothing, so it wasn't the intent wasn't that for my commentary. He just had to respond to it in that way. But it's still a news story of, oh no, there's still no news. And that is entirely frustrating in boxing because we've had a lot of that lately. But again, if Klitschko comes back, of course it's big news. Of course it's good for the heavyweight division. I think he instantly becomes a top 10 competitor in the division. I don't know about top 5. I think he might lose to all the top 5 competitors, maybe even top 6 or 7. But let's be honest, I think we would all be happy if Klitschko came back in some capacity and at least was serious about the fight. I know the rumor, at least the the water cooler rumor and talk has been Klitschko, Shannon Briggs again on DAZN, and Briggs allegedly getting a offer or something like that. Look, I have no idea. At this point, I no longer care, and we can move on. And Fugatti saying Spence talking about Canelo, also April Fool's joke. April Fool's sucks. For combat sports, it is the worst. It makes no sense. It's always... I don't know what's more annoying, the April Fool's joke itself or us having to go on and on about how it's an April Fool's joke. Either way, it's fucking annoying. And Klitschko just did not help to that at all today, let's be honest. Let's talk about the fights briefly, though, this weekend. Obviously, we did a live fight chat for Anthony Fowler, Fitzgerald, and Liam Smith, Sam Eggington. So I'm not going to go in-depth on those fights because we talked about them live. So we did as in-depth take as you can on a fight. We talked about it during the fight. So go and check out that video. I will say, Liam Smith, always a fun fighter. I know that he gets a lot of criticism. I don't know why, honestly. I think he's a fun fighter. I think he's a top 10 competitor in the division, at the very least a top 15 competitor in the division. And Fowler Fitzgerald, I still don't worry, Rabisky. I'll get to him. Relax. Don't worry. I knew you were going to come in the chat mentioning him. You know, shout out to Puerto Rico, man. Always. But Fowler Fitzgerald, again, fun fight. It wasn't as great as I think a lot of people are making out to be. It was a fencing affair. Both guys using a lot of their jabs in the first 6-7 rounds. It didn't really become, I think, fun till round 7-8, and then obviously you have the knockdown in round 10. Fitzgerald winning by huge upset. I would say a huge upset, but upset. It is an upset. I think, again, Fowler, Fitzgerald, they're they're top 30 competitors, top 40 competitors in the world probably, and I would love to see a rematch in a year. And have Cheeseman come in here and fight Fowler, have Fitzgerald go and take a soft touch because he got beat up in this fight, and have the rematch, and the winner of the rematch can actually move on and fight top-level competitors. Because I'll be honest, I don't think any of these guys actually beats top 10 competition at this point. I just don't see that. But good, high-level medium-level prospects, high-level domestic-level fighters. Good fight. Not the great fight of the year that some people were saying online. I really did not see that. Moving on. I'm not going to talk about this Vajdic Ngumbu fight. Mainly because I saw the Ray Robinson Edson Cafez. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. And I'll be honest, I really, really, really don't care about this top-ranked card. I thought it was just poor matchmaking throughout. Vajdic fighting a nobody made zero sense to me. On top of that, it mattered little to me or nothing to me. So I watched it. Vajdic won easily and got the knockout within the fifth round. We know what it is, guys. Let's be honest. This was just another bad top-ranked card. Again, is what it is. But moving on to the DAZN card, or say the second DAZN card of the day, at least in the U.S. I don't think this was shown in the UK, which was upsetting, I think, for some UK hardcores. Especially when you talk about Angel Tito Acosta. Yes, I'm talking about him, Rabisky. Let's be honest. The fight we wanted to talk about, fighting Ganigan Lopez. This was not only probably the best fight of the weekend in terms of relevance, in terms of elite level competition. even though Lopez at this point really isn't, I should say, top 5, top 10 level competition, he is still a guy that has fought all the best competitors in the world. He may have lost to all the best competitors in the world, but he's fought them all. So you have to give him that. He is still a top 15, top 20 competitor, and that still matters, I think, at the end of the day. And Tito Costa just beat him up for 8 rounds. I mean, there was some moments where he would get caught. That's mainly just because Acosta is hittable. He's a guy that comes in straight lines. He's a guy that doesn't have any flashy defensive technique at all, really. He's also a guy that really doesn't block and parry shots that well. Not to say he doesn't at times, but he is so offensively minded that he is just going to march you down. And when he is marching you down, he is a devastating threat. Not only does he throw in combination when he does throw, but he is composed. He is patient in the pocket. He has great accuracy in the pocket. And that's a huge part of his game, is that I think as he has gotten, a little bit older as well, he has lowered his volume and has become more of an accurate, I'm not going to say a sniper because he throws too much in volume still to be a sniper, but you can tell when he's walking down an opponent, he is picking his shots well. He is looking for his opportunities, his moments, his openings, and he lands with devastating effect. What is next for him? Obviously picking up this 8th round KO. I think, obviously, a Kenshiro fight. Kenshiro obviously has also fought Lopez. Why not have Kenshiro versus Angel Tito Costa? I think that makes all the sense in the world. It's another tough fight for Kenshiro, who's been on a run of tough fights lately. And Angel Acosta, I think, is needing a elite level opponent since Tanaka. And this makes the most sense in the world for me. It also, I think, if Acosta comes in here and beats Kenshiro, he sort of, I think, is able to wash some of the blemish of that Tanaka loss, in my sense. Ricky, come on, man. That fight's not happening anytime soon. Are we going to talk about that? But Angel Tito Costa, salute to him. Always a fun fighter. And I think he has, I don't want to get the stat wrong, but I think he has the highest knockout percentage in like junior flyweight history or something like that. Like some absurd statistic. The guy is an insane knockout artist, especially at 108 pounds. He's only had one fight go to decision in his entire career. That is nuts. Ryan Garcia also fought on this card, by the way, guys, I guess, as you can tell by the thumbnail. But I'm going to sound like a broken record with Ryan Garcia. I think he is a guy that is still extremely offensively gifted, but his defensive lapses, his defensive ineptitude is really starting to become an issue. And this is now the second fight under Eddie Reynoso and in the whole Team Canelo. I haven't seen much improvement yet. There are certain moments he'll pull back from like overhand right where I'm like, okay, that's Canelo. Like I can see the Canelo in there, but it's so few and far between. And on top of that, this was a 2-round fight, so we don't see a lot of his game. The lateral movement I'm looking for still isn't really there at times, especially when he's pressured. That's always what I'm talking about when it comes to his footwork. Is when Ryan Garcia is pressured, his game falls apart, and that is still an issue. That still was evident in this fight. There's still moments that who did he fight? Jose Lopez was able to get on the inside and unleash some combinations and land because Garcia doesn't know what to do, or at least he can't react well. Even though he may know what to do, he doesn't react well, regardless. So it's just sad, man. It's just Ryan Garcia is a guy that has so much hype, so much from following, but he needs some time. He needs the long road to the top, and I don't know if Golden Boy is going to be willing to do that. But digress. We'll get into the news of the day here, guys. We have a few topics, 4 topics to get into. If you want to call in, 323-870-4051, press 1 to get in the queue. If you are international, add Mixed Combat Radio on Skype. I will say, before we jump to the news, if you have not seen that Tito Costa fight, go watch that. Probably the best fighter that fought this last weekend. Let's be honest. I see Fu already got a little bit trolled by the whole Mikey Loma fight. God damn, Fu. You're such a Loma fanboy. It's sad. So sad. But anyways, let's get to the news of the day. Miguel Berchelt, Francisco Vargas 2, Emmanuel Navarrete, and Isaac Dogbe 2. Doubleheader finalized for May 11th. And you're thinking to yourself right now, May 11th? Is that the same day as Jarrett Hurd, J-Rock Williams, and Matt Korbov, Emmanuel Alim? Yes, and I think also Mario Barros is on that card as well. And so now we have, ladies and gentlemen, not only a topic of talking about these fights, which I think are serviceable rematches, I think, regardless of whether I think some of these fights should have happened, at least these 2 rematches in particular. They are really fun, competitive, elite fights still, regardless of whether I think the rematches should happen. They are still competitive, elite fights. I have to say that. However, this now sort of rating war we're going to see between Top Rank and PBC on the same night, and sort of their 2 branch or sort of their 2 flagship networks, so to speak. PBC with Fox and ESPN with, or I say Top Rank ESPN. It will be interesting to see again who wins out the rating war. I think Fox and the PBC card will, for obvious reasons. It's on Fox. But it will be interesting to see how well this Berchelt Vargas card does. Because not only do I think Miguel Berchelt has really been underutilized in this sort of ESPN era for Top Rank, unlike his run on HBO. I think when you have the Navarrete Dogbe 2 co-main attached to it, as Top Rank, you're putting a lot of eggs in one basket and one card. And if that's going to pay off, I don't know. But I am curious to see how that looks, what that looks like. And on top of that, I'll be honest, ESPN needs to step up their production quality. No shot at their commentary team in particular, but that Timothy Bradley promo on the UFC card for the Top Rank card on Saturday was utterly atrocious. Let's just be honest. And now you're going to go head-to-head with PBC on Fox, and when PBC has a really good main event, I think you're asking a lot. On top of that, you're asking a lot of 2 of your big fighters in a sense, Dogbe and Berchelt. Let's see if Navarrete turns into one of their sort of priorities. But again, this ratings war is going to be interesting to see who wins out, but more importantly, what sort of marketing dollars do they put into it? Because we already see that the Crawford Khan fight has been really under-promoted by ESPN, by Top Rank, and now they're putting 2 of their sort of, let me use the word stars loosely in a very relative sense. They're stars, Berchelt and Dogbe, on the same card in rematches that really didn't need to happen. One of them could easily lose the rematch. On top of that, they're going head-to-head against a potentially stronger card on a better network with more marketing behind it. You're asking a lot of your fighters to pull out and to pull good numbers out when this, the deck is sort of stacked against them. And regardless of, again, how good these fights are, my thoughts on whether these rematches should happen, ESPN Top Rank should be a little bit smart about, I think, scheduling. Like, this should be almost a Friday night card. I think that should be something they look into. Is like, why go head-to-head on Saturday with this card? Go to May 10th, do it the day before. You're not competing with this. I think there's something to that. Anyways, let's move on. Callum Smith was supposed to be, or at least he was talked about being, on the Alexander Usyk undercard in Chicago. That is not going to be happening, at least from this report from Elliot Foster, Boxing Scene. Callum Smith to expand his profile on Joshua Miller MSG card. It looks like Callum Smith will be on the undercard of Joshua Miller at MSG. His opponent is not said in this article yet, or at least stated in the news. I am curious about who they're going to find on sort of relative short notice. On top of that, because Callum Smith is probably going to be worth a lot in terms of value, in terms of what DAZN has to pay him. This card is a lot in terms of what DAZN has to pay for it. I'm not expecting a lot in terms of competition because they're going to have to pay his opponent, if his opponent's an elite level competitor, a lot. I don't think they're going to have the money for this card to find that. You're going to see probably a tune-up for Callum Smith, but it's going to be good exposure for Smith on a big card, a big sort of tentpole event for DAZN in a way. So again, Callum Smith on the Joshua Miller card. Opponent still TBA. Moving on, Julio Cesar Martinez. If you don't know who that is, you better now. Obviously, he just beat Andrew Selby in a huge upset last week. Not this weekend, but the last weekend. Andrew Selby obviously has already beaten guys like Christopher Rosales, etc. At 11-0, sort of on his way to a title opportunity in title shot, and a lot of people thought he was, again, on that path. Martinez beat him in, I think, via knockout in the 6th round or 7th round, and now he is in position to fight Charlie Edwards, and he seems like he really wants to fight. I will love that. I think it makes the most sense in the world. H-Money, no, there's April Fools, man. April Fools. Sorry. Apologize. But again, Charlie Edwards, Julio Cesar Martinez could be next, and that seems like a fun fight. That again makes sense. It would be competitive. Martinez has a lot of power, tough volume guy on the inside. Edwards, I think, would struggle with him, and on top of that, it just beating a fellow countryman and then fighting the champion makes just so much narrative sense that as a promoter, if you're Eddie Hearn out there, you want that fight. That is an easy fight to promote, let's be honest. Last news of the day, or last topic of the day, I'm going to go to callers. Dennis Lebedev says he could retire after his next fight and ready for Lawrence Okolie. Yeah, guys. Look, I think even a semi-retired Lebedev finishes Lawrence Okolie, a.k.a. Mac and Cheese from the show Friends. Let's be honest. If Lawrence Okolie is smart, he steers clear of that fight as much as possible. Let's be honest. But anyways, guys, let's go to callers. 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. If you are international, add us on Skype. Mixed Combat Radio on Skype. Going out to the 816. I think this is Mr. DAZN. No, 901 is Mr. DAZN. 816. Is that Zulu? I don't know. 816. Who is this?
Yo, this Zulu, man. How you doing,
Zulu.
man?
What up?
MCR. All right, how y'all doing?
Good, man.
Man, did you say, now, because I didn't hear, did you say Dog Bay Navarro too?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes.
Man, and I know you saw that fight. I think we talked about that fight when it happened. He took such a beating. I can't believe they're throwing him right back in there with that man. I don't see him winning that fight unless he's changed something drastically, and he hasn't fought since. I don't know about that fight there, man. But another point I want to bring up is also about the Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao. Is it a good fight? Well, I don't think it's a great fight, but I think it's going to be an entertaining fight. being that I believe both of those guys are on the decline. We know Manny Pacquiao certainly is, but it just seems so much that Keith Thurman is just not who we thought he was. You know, it's kind of like in the beginning when he was calling himself one time and he was really getting out there and putting the pressure on these guys and getting the knockouts. You know, you can see such a future for him, but it looked like ever since he took that hiatus, maybe it was because of injuries or whatever. Like you said, maybe the good kush got him or whatever. He just don't seem to be the same to me, and he's not reacting like I feel he should. A champion should. The punishment when he gets hit, as we saw the last fight, he kind of almost, you know, he didn't take it as well as I would have imagined he would have taken it. But those two topics in particular, I think is worth discussing. Especially this Dogbo Navarro fight. I mean, that's a big deal in my opinion, because he took such a beating. I'm talking about a beating where I felt it should have been stopped. Should have maybe mid fight. They left him in there to take such a beating, and I don't know what adjustments they may have made or what they thought they could do without having a return fight with somebody else to see if, okay, let's clean up some of the mistakes we may have made, and then think about rematching that guy. What's your opinion on that, brother?
You know, I agree with you in large part about the rematch. I think it makes little to no sense right now. You have no tune-up in between. Dogbe,
right?
You know, Dogbe had I think one fight after the Magdaleno fight before the Navarro fight. I don't know if it was one or two. I think it was just one.
It was one.
If you think about it, the Magdaleno fight was a fight of the year contender, you know, honorable mention that was back and forth. He was dropped multiple times. And then obviously the Navarro fight, he had a tough fight in as well. I'm not trying to say that Dogbe should be questioned as a talent. I think he's an obvious talent. But what we have to say is that he has taken a lot of punishment. And for him to be thrown right back in there against Navarro makes little to no sense if you're his promoter/manager. If you're somebody on his team, I don't think you would want this rematch right now. You would want it at least one fight or two fights down the line. I think, I don't know why they're doing this. Maybe Dogbe is confident enough. Maybe he told Aram, I know we want this fight. Maybe Aram's the one that wants it. I don't know.
I can't see that. Yeah.
And if you're Aram, you sort of caught something with Dogbe. They were pushing him a lot on ESPN and on Top Rank. And for them to sort of run this back right away is alarming. At the very least, it shows that they are a little bit they don't have self-awareness about Dogbe and where he stands right now and how to match him up. It at least shows questionable matchmaking. At the very worst, it shows promotional malpractice. If it's Dogbe that's the one that's if it's Dogbe is the one that's asking for this fight and you know sort of not begging for it but demanding it, then credit to him. But that's what fighters should do. I expect fighters to do that. His manager, his team, his coach should sit him down and should have told him no. That obviously did not happen. So at the very least, I have to. The promoter, the manager, the team shares some blame in this, and again, it makes no sense. I think this is asking a lot of Dogbe, and I think it's potentially asking far too much of him to come back in here right away and fight him. It could ruin him. It could.
It could ruin him for the rest of his career. I mean, I think he's already in jeopardy of being ruined. And going into that, if he takes a beating like that again, I don't see him ever really coming back as being anything maybe at C-level best, because there's just too many punches he took, you know. And to be able to go into another fight with, I don't know what adjustments he's made. I don't even think he's had enough time. It's only been about, 2 or 3 months or so?
That fight was in December.
Something like that, right?
That fight was in December, man.
Right. So this is we're in April. So about 4 months ago. You know, it's not too far away. I don't see what adjustments he could have made, but you know, like you said, it's bad matchmaking on somebody's part, and they're kind of either throwing him to the lines, or they feel Dogbe may have been, like you said, pressing them to I want this fight again. I want this fight again. But it's better to lead with your head and not your heart, in particular in that position. You know, when it was just such a one-sided whipping. And Dogby is a little guy. He's not really a big guy. He is a talent, like you said, but I don't think he's being groomed to be for the best potential to come out of him. You know what I mean?
Absolutely agree.
By throwing him into that kind of situation like that. But one other point I wanted to make about Klitschko, man. Do we really want to see Klitschko back again?
It wouldn't hurt.
He had his reign. I mean, I kind of disagreed with you when you said it, brother, about him coming back to the heavyweight division. I think it only just could possibly complicate things. He's coming off of 2 losses, been off 2 years. He's in his 40s now. He's getting along. To come back in and let's say you throw him in there with somebody like, let's say, Derek Chisora. We know he'll beat Derek Chisora. Now does he sit on a high hill, not like Tyson Fury and them doing, well, I'm back. Klitschko's back. He beat Derek Chisora, which we know, was really a stepping stone. But some people think different about Chisora. I don't. Mm-hmm. But if say he beats that person, now he's up there. Now he's in contention. Now we already got 3 people acting like divas. 3 champions, 2 champions and 1 lineal acting like divas about fighting each other. Now you throw somebody else in the mix, and now somebody pick him up, and we got a 4th one, possibly. What do you think about that scenario?
I don't think it's as much of an issue as potentially as you make it in terms of like him being the 4th diva in the mix and therefore us still not getting the matchups. I think if Klitschko comes back, I think honestly he comes back and he wants some rematches. He wants an AJ rematch. He wants a Tyson Fury rematch. Whatever it is, I think that's sort of his end goal.
After 2 losses.
I don't. When I say that, I don't mean him coming right back and fighting that guy instantly.
Right. Okay.
I mean, like that's his goal. Like if he's coming back, his end goal is probably one of those 2 guys. So you're probably gonna have like a Shannon Briggs and Derek Chisora, one of those guys in between. And in my opinion, that doesn't really take away a contender that I want to face Joshua or Wilder or Fury. So it doesn't take away from the contenders in any way, in my opinion. On top of that, Klitschko potentially just adds more to the division. He adds some name value. He adds some eyeballs on top of the division. While heavyweight really doesn't need that, it can't hurt to have more. In my opinion, Klitschko is a net positive. Like, Klitschko coming back is a net positive for the division. Yes, there are some drawbacks, potentially. But I think largely those drawbacks are outweighed by whatever positives he brings to the table, which are more eyeballs, more exposure for the sport, and some more, I think, gravitas to the division. He adds some more to that. It adds some depth to the top 10 on top of it. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I do understand why you have the concern you do have. I just don't think it's one that's going to materialize in the way you think it is.
I sure hope not, man, because I'm really kind of excited about the I think we're all excited about what the heavyweight division could be right now. We're seeing it right there. I mean, we're seeing it. It's like the promised land almost. We're seeing it, but we're not walking in it yet, And until these guys fight, in particular, we want the Wilder Joshua fight. We can say, and I was listening to your man Fu the last 2 weeks ago. He was really hot about Deontay Wilder turning down the DAZN offer. Well, I mean, this thing has been played out so many different ways, man. I mean, Joshua turns down $50 million. Deontay Wilder turns down whatever it may be. DAZN, he's saying he's showing his loyalty to Showtime. We don't know what Showtime has offered him. You see, it's kind of getting so mucky that, in my opinion, bringing another one in will make it even more chaotic. But I think we're at a point where some of these fights happening. Jarrell Miller's getting up there. He's fighting Anthony Joshua. We got Deontay Wilder fighting Brazil. It's not necessarily what we want to see, but Dominique Brazil only has 1 loss. He got to get in there. He's been the mandatory. He got to get in there and fight. He earned the spot, regardless of how we think about it. I don't think he earned it, but he's been up there for a while. Let the fight happen. Let's let these fights happen, and then I mean, we ought to put the pressure. The people continue to put the pressure on the heavyweight division that you guys got to fight each other. It's not I don't care that Joshua's on the zone or Wilder's at Showtime. It doesn't matter. They can still make that fight happen. It's not like these fights still cannot happen. They may be a little bit more complicated than me and you can understand, but these guys are promoters that's been around the game for years. So they know how to make these fights happen. They can happen. Now, will it be comfortably? I mean, will it be just a simple, come over to ESPN and fight me, or we'll come over to Showtime and fight me? Maybe not that simple, but you're a hardcore fan. You studied the sport. You know these things have happened before, crossing networks and making fights happen.
Yeah.
So it's not that the fight's dead. It's just unfortunate we're not seeing it like us fans, we want to see the fight. You agree?
No, I absolutely agree. I was talking to Jose Ramirez's manager on Twitter the other day, and we're talking about the Ramirez-Maurice Hooker fight, obviously. And Jose Ramirez being ESPN, Maurice Hooker being on DAZN, Matchroom. And I point out, look, Rick is his name, and I was like, Rick, have ESPN have the live TV rights, DAZN have the live digital rights, and it's that simple. And Rick agreed that would work, but networks don't like things that are that simple. So I think, yes, you are right in the idea that there are no excuses for the fights not happening. Whatever fight you want to bring up, Spence Crawford, AJ Wilder, you can bring up any fight. There is no excuse for the fight not happening. There are creative ways for every party to be satisfied. It is not on us to think of those ways. It is on them. Always put it in that perspective.
That's right.
That's
my point I'm trying to get to right
No, you're absolutely right about that. It is on the networks, it's on the promoters, it's on them to think of those creative ways to be satisfied, to make the consumers happy. Because that's what this is all about, is making the fans and the consumers happy. Because if we're happy, that means the sport's on the right path. It's a very simple concept. And yes, you are right in the idea that these cross-promotional, cross-network fights are more complicated than me and you can really think about. You're absolutely right. However, again, I know you're not saying this, but for those listening, it's not an excuse. Always put the pressure, apply the pressure on these promoters, on these corporate entities to make the fight. Because I'm telling you, I've said this before on the air, and I'll say it again. We will get AJ Wilder when we hear about John Skipper of DAZN and I forget his name of ESPN not ESPN, Steven Espinoza of Showtime in a room together. When we hear that meeting happen, then the fight will happen. When the corporations are actually along with the game plan instead of just the promoters and fighters, then the fight will happen, guys. And that goes with ESPN and Showtime or Fox, whoever it may be, for a Spence and Crawford fight, for a Mikey Loma fight, for whatever it is. There are ways, and it's going to take those corporations to work together, and that just is hard sometimes. They hate doing that.
Definitely. I enjoy the call, brother, as always, man. I know you got other callers waiting. I don't want to eat up all your time because I'll turn it another day.
Thank you, Zulu. Have a good one, man. Stay safe out there. Let's go to Mr. DAZN. I think that's Mr. DAZN. 901. Mr. DAZN.
Yeah, what's up, my guy? How you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. So what's up with this Wladimir Klitschko? I mean, I woke up in the morning and I seen it everywhere, and I seen it from some reliable sources in Blue Blood TV on YouTube, and he said it was a 3-fight deal worth $120 million.
April Fools.
And I seen this all over Google. I Googled it. It's everywhere, like the Ukraine put it up.
Yep, April Fools.
Is it an April Fool's joke or what?
Yep, April Fools.
Seriously?
Yes, it's April Fools.
Oh, man. Who told you? I mean,
The original outlet.
somebody told me he did that last year.
Look. The original outlet that reported the news. I will tell you the outlet. It is. Hold on. Where is it? Right here. Sportarena.com is the name of the outlet. It's a Ukrainian outlet. They're the first ones that reported it, and that's the report that everyone else went with. They are the ones that came out and confirmed that it is April Fool's joke. It is not real. It is not happening. Mike Coppinger has come out and said that there's still an offer from DAZN, but he has not accepted it.
I mean, so what's up with the like on the WBN, the World Boxing Nation? They said like that's a deal that went through.
No, April Fool's joke, man.
Man, you remember last time you told me about that Wilder situation when you told me Wilder rejected that deal? Remember that?
Which deal specifically?
You remember you broke the news when Wilder he rejected the DAZN offer, and you was the first person on YouTube that actually broke that news.
I wouldn't. So I don't know if I'm the first one to do that. I wouldn't say that because I'm not the one that broke the news. But
on YouTube.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Just as a reporter, that's just what I do. Like if I'm not the one that actually broke the news, I can't say I broke the news. That's just his like journalistic ethics. I can't do that. I get what you're saying though. So I may have been the first one you saw. Absolutely true. But no, I'm telling you, man. Like Klitschko, April Fool's joke. I'm sorry. I wish it was true, but it's not.
I've been celebrating all day. I've been celebrating all day that I'm serious. I've been watching nothing but Klitschko fights all day. Saying you're telling me now that this is all fake.
Yes.
That's some bullshit, man. I'm pissed off. I'm really pissed.
Yes.
I'm pissed off about that, man. That sucks. But, I mean, on the good side, what do you think about Ryan Garcia's performance this week? He looked like he had a sold-out show. He had a first-round knockout. The guy looked like a freaking star. What do you think about him?
I think offensively, he looks still a gifted, dynamic, athletic talent. Like that's never been in question. I think the things that have been in question is his defensive skill. And there are times he's still, when pressured, he backs up in straight lines. He doesn't use lateral movement. He shows up. He's hittable when he gets pressured. But he's a young fighter. He's going to have the slow burn towards the top. He's in a good camp. He obviously has a huge following, so he's in a good position. I don't think he is anywhere close to the top yet. We need to pump the brakes on him.
But if you were a promoter, like who would you pick first between a Gervonta Davis? I mean, I'm talking about box office. As for a box office fighter, who would you take? Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, Adrian Broner, or who else? Teofimo Lopez. Who would you take? I mean,
Adrian
who
Broner.
has the bigger Instagram following?
Adrian Broner.
Who has the biggest Instagram following?
Adrian Broner.
Ryan Garcia has the bigger Instagram following.
Yeah, but
Mr.
DAZN. I get that he might have more Instagram followers than Broner, but he doesn't do more numbers than Broner. Like numbers that mean dollars, because Instagram numbers don't mean dollars. They don't. Viewership means dollars.
I get what you're saying. I see, but potential-wise, like 20 years old, being undefeated, Adrian Broner is pretty much a shot fighter at this moment, though.
Yeah, but okay, you bring up Gervonta Davis. I'll pick Gervonta Davis. He sells more. He does more numbers.
I mean, Gervonta Davis, his Instagram followers is not up there with Ryan Garcia.
That doesn't matter.
You don't think so?
I don't think it matters. Because it's not like Gervonta does. It's not like Gervonta. It's not like Gervonta doesn't have a following. You know what I mean? It's not like he has zero followers.
Davis, he bitches weight all the time. He's been stripped. He's been stripped for a title before Gervonta Davis.
But he's also won a title. Ryan Garcia has never won a title. Never fought. Ryan Garcia has never fought a top. Hold on, Mr. DAZN. Mr. DAZN. Ryan Garcia hasn't fought a top 50 competitor yet. You know that, right?
Why? What about Gervonta Davis? Who has he beat? Gervonta Davis.
Jose Pedraza.
He's ducking Lomachenko.
Jose Pedraza.
Why he doesn't fight Lomachenko?
Jose Pedraza.
Why is he dunking Lomachenko?
Lomachenko's in another division.
I never heard of Pedraza.
Well, that's your fault. That's not my fault that you don't know who a former two-time. Hold on, Mr. DAZN. Mr. DAZN. Let me talk. You're not letting me talk, so I'm gonna meet you. Then I'll come back to you, okay? Because you won't let me talk. Pedraza is a former two-time champion in 2 weight divisions. Okay, he has wins against Tevin Farmer, and I know as Mr. DAZN, you know who Tevin Farmer is, right? So you must know who beat him. In Jose Pedraza. Okay. And he's also obviously beat Ray Beltran at 135 to win a belt. And he obviously lost to Lomachenko recently. So, again, it's not my fault or Gervonta's fault that you in particular don't know who Pedraza is. Okay. Pedraza is a former 2-time champion in 2 weight divisions. Okay. Ryan Garcia has never fought anyone close to that, let alone a Jesus Cuellar, who was a top 10 super featherweight. Featherweight. So I'm gonna go back to you, Mr. DAZN, but you're talking about somebody that has actually beaten a champion compared to somebody that hasn't fought top 50 competition. Do you understand that?
Mayweather won't put But bro, you hear me? They won't put him up against anybody like good. Even Rolly, that kid Rolly been calling out Tank Davis. He said Tank Davis ducked him 2 times in a sparring match. Rolly said he wants to fight Tank Davis next.
Rolly who?
I mean, Rolly, the kid who been calling out
who's
Ryan
him?
Garcia. You know Rolly,
who
the
cares?
Kid who's been calling him out. He's TMT. He's TMT.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying, this guy, Mayweather has been talking about him, saying Rolly should fight Ryan Garcia. Mayweather talked about Rolly, so it's not like he's a.
Look, Mr. DAZN, I don't give a fuck who Rolly is. We're not talking about Rolly. We're talking about Gervonta Davis. You want to talk about Gervonta Davis or somebody else now? Are we talking about? Are we moving the goalposts?
No,
and are we having a different discussion now?
Hasn't fought anybody.
Are we having a different discussion now?
Gervonta Davis hasn't fought anybody.
But he has. I already told you 2 names.
That's all I'm saying.
But you're wrong. You're wrong.
I mean, those
you're
guys
wrong.
Good. Those guys aren't really good. I'm just saying. What do you mean
they're not really good? They are.
Davis is not good.
Do you think Tevin Farmer?
Alcohol.
Hold on. Do you think? Who cares? Who cares? He drinks alcohol. Do you think Tevin Farmer is really good?
He's like Adrian Broner. That's all I'm saying. Tevin Farmer is a good fighter. He has 4 losses.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you know who some of those guys that he lost to are? Like Jose Pedraza, who's a former 2-time champion.
I heard. Yeah, you told me about him. You told me about him, but
okay.
I mean, Pedraza, he's not a big name. I'm just saying he's not.
I didn't say he was a big. Whoa! DAZN, Mr. DAZN.
He won 2.
Mr. DAZN. I didn't say he was a big name. I say he was a former 2-time champion. That means he was elite. I don't give a fuck about his Instagram followers. Was he elite? So name me. I'm going to give you 1 chance here. Okay, Mr. DAZN, since you think Ryan Garcia is the greatest thing since fucking sliced bread. Name me 1 person in Ryan Garcia's resume that's better than Jose Pedraza.
He doesn't have a name. He doesn't have
a
name as big as that guy.
Cool.
But all I'm saying is he's a big name. He's like, they say he's the next De La Hoya. They say he's the next Golden Boy. I'm just looking at the following. I'm looking out. He's selling out crowds. I mean, he's getting escorted by the police. He's looking like a freaking star. I'm just saying, look at the numbers. It doesn't lie.
He sold out. He sold out. How big was the theater that he sold out? Do you know?
It was big.
How big? How big?
Show.
Do you know how big it was?
The guy looks like a star. He has Canelo with him. He has. I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly the number. But I'm
Was
just
it
saying,
1,000 people? Was it 400
show.
people? Was it 5,000 people? Was it 10,000 people? How many people watched on DAZN?
It was a lot of people, Matt.
How many people watched this fight on
It was a lot
DAZN?
of people, Matt. It was.
How many people watched this fight on DAZN?
It was. I mean, they don't put out numbers on subscribers. You know, that's an app, so they don't do that. You know what I mean? But I mean, we all know DAZN have the most fighters on a pound for pound list. I mean, Usyk, Triple G, Anthony Joshua. I mean, Canelo. The list goes on. And come on now. We know Canelo. I mean, DAZN is running.
Hey, Mr. DAZN, stick to one argument here. Okay, you changing the argument all over the place. Are we talking about DAZN now? Or are we talking about Rolly? Are we talking about Gervonta Davis? Talking about Ryan Garcia? I don't know what the argument is here.
I'm not a PBC fan. I'm not a TNT fan.
We know you're Mr. DAZN.
Fan. I'm not a PBC. I'm a DAZN fan.
I know. We know that.
I'm a DAZN fan.
Your name
all I watch is DAZN.
We know your name is Mr. DAZN, so I feel like that's pretty obvious.
But Gervonta Davis, when is he gonna fight a big name fighter? That's all I'm saying. God.
When is Ryan Garcia gonna fight a top 20 competitor?
He's only 20 years old.
How old is Gervonta Davis? How old is Gervonta Davis?
He's about 22, 23 years old.
And he's
22,
and he's a champion. Think about that.
Yeah.
He's only
Matt. Come on.
Ryan Garcia is with Oscar De La Hoya. What are you talking about here?
Yeah, he's with the Golden Boy.
Then why doesn't he have a belt around him if he's so good and he's only a year or two younger than Gervonta? Gervonta had a belt at that time.
They said he's going to fight for a belt next. He just called out. Your boy Gervonta Davis.
So he's going to move down a division?
Take the fight because Mayweather's protecting him.
So he's going to move down a division?
Mayweather's protecting him, Matt.
No, he's not. So you think Ryan? Hold on. You think Ryan Garcia is going to move?
He's ducking Ryan Garcia, Matt.
Mr. DAZN, let me talk, man. I know you got. I know you animated.
Ryan Garcia would knock him out.
Okay. No, he wouldn't, and you know that. Again, I'll talk and I'll mute you and I'll go back to you because you can't argue back and forth. You just want to shout over me. You think that Ryan Garcia is going to drop down a division, go to 130, go to Showtime or Fox, and fight Gervonta Davis? You think that's going to happen? Yes or no?
I hope it happens. Ryan Garcia, he called him out. He set the challenge out there. It should be on.
Is a contract sent? Is a contract sent?
Davis for $5 million.
They didn't offer Ryan Garcia.
They
didn't offer Ryan Garcia. What are you talking about?
They offered Gervonta Davis $5 million. Eddie Hearn offered.
I know that, but they didn't offer him. They didn't offer him fucking Ryan Garcia. That's what we're talking about here. Stop switching the argument.
No, that's what
No. You're changing the goalpost again here, Mr. DAZN. You're changing the goalpost. We're talking Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis. Not Gervonta Davis, Tevin Farmer. We're not talking about that. Even though Gervonta's already beat the guy that beat him. We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia. Has there ever been an offer sent to Gervonta Davis for Ryan Garcia? Don't say you don't know.
He called him out. I'm just going by what he
okay.
said.
He called him out. He called him out. That's great.
On TMZ.
You're not answering the question. You're not answering the question. You're being evasive. You know it.
I'm just saying. We know Mayweather's protecting your boy Gervonta Davis, the guy who can't make weight, the fat boy Gervonta Davis, the drunk guy Gervonta Davis.
The same guy that has beaten elite competition and your guy hasn't. You know that, right? Like I feel like you still don't know that.
Right. He's a more dedicated fighter. Fighter. Ryan Garcia.
And yet he doesn't have the wins that Gervonta has.
Gervonta Davis, he's been protected by Floyd Mayweather. Gervonta Davis is not good.
Wait, hold on.
He's been ducking Lomachenko.
DAZN.
He's been ducking Lomachenko.
DAZN. I'm going to ask you a question, okay? Do you think that a promoter putting a guy that is 21 years old with less than 20 fights in against a champion, quote, protecting him? Yes or no?
I believe De La Hoya will make the fight. They just talked about
you're not,
it. They
okay,
just called him out.
it was a very simple yes or no question. Do you think a promoter putting a – I'll ask the question again. Do you think a promoter putting a 21-year-old fighter, a kid with under 20 fights, in with a champion, a legit world champion, quote, protecting him? Yes or no?
Yes, I think Golden Boy will put up. They'll make the fight. I think they'll do it. I think so.
I don't think you understand the question. I'm not talking about Golden Boy putting up the money. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a promoter putting a 21-year-old fighter with under 20 fights in against a world champion. Is that protecting the fighter? Is that, in your words, protecting him?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Or is that not protecting the fighter and putting him in there tough?
Gervonta Davis.
What was that?
They're protecting. They don't want him. They don't want him to fight Lomachenko. They're scared of that fight.
Okay, we're moving on. We're moving on, Mr. DAZN. You don't understand the question. It's fine. It's fine. You think a guy that has fought for a belt when he was 21 years old is being protected. Think about that. Think about that for a second. Moving on, though. Fugatti in Texas. Fugatti, how you doing?
What's up, homie?
What's up, man?
God, dog. I mean, Tank's not protected. Like, Mr. DAZN has to get off of that. Like, you know, I'm not the biggest Tank Davis fan.
We can say he's mismanaged now. We can have that argument, but he's not protected.
I don't even know if it's mismanaged. Like, my point would be that he's on a side of the street where there's not good competition for him unless they're pulling people up from 126 pounds. So that's what they've been doing. They've been moving people up to fight Tank Davis to keep him busy and keep it in-house fights. The big fights at 130 are not there for him except for on Top Rank, you know, with Burchelt and on DAZN with fucking Farmer. So it's not a matter of protecting him. It's a matter of there being too much money in the sport right now for fights to be made outside of in-house fights. They got to figure something out. Like you were talking about, you know, uncoupling the digital rights and the linear rights or something. You know, there's something that's got to happen there to make some of these fights happen. So Davis is a fantastic fighter, great speed, great power. You know, yes, little undisciplined when it comes to making weight.
Absolutely.
All that. For people to say he's not a good fighter is bullshit. It's hate. It's just hate toward the PBC. And that's fine. Like, everyone can have their own opinions, but it's not true, you know? I wanted to talk to you about Thurman and Pacquiao.
Yes.
So,
talk to me.
I can't help thinking, and this is maybe really shitty, but I just feel like Pacquiao's wasted on Thurman. I really thought they should go the Spence route, because if you're going to invest in someone, why not invest in Spence? Why would you invest in Thurman?
Maybe because the thought is if Pacquiao loses in a decision to Thurman, we still have Pacquiao to use in later fights. Like, he's not ruined. He's not damaged goods. If you put him in there with Spence now, he's potentially damaged. You know what I mean? Like, a Danny Garcia Manny Pacquiao fight is less likely if you throw Spence in there first. Maybe in their thought process. Yeah. That's the only, at this point in time, that's the only thing I could really think of as to why they would have this route and not, quote, you know, use Pacquiao for Spence, who I think is their sort of golden goose at welterweight right now is Spence, no longer Thurman. But I think they get more uses out of Pacquiao if they throw Thurman in there first instead of a Spence. Probably.
Because you think Thurman's not as deadly.
Yes.
So it's like Spence might really put him out of boxing. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. But it just seems odd to me because like when you go and you make like the Mikey fight and then you realize it does 360,000 to 400,000 views, like to buy rate, right? That's the time to make that fight. It's coming off of a hot fight. If you put Spence in there with someone else and put him back in a regular TV fight, unless they put him in with Porter pay-per-view, that could be the route.
That's what it
like,
is.
Get another belt, you know. Get him another pay-per-view fight. Throw him back in the Dallas Cowboy Stadium, you know. Get another 40-plus thousand crowd.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's be honest. Like, no one's talked about how fucking amazing that is for American boxing. Really, like, that narrative hasn't been too, you know, blown up. But 47,000 people at a boxing match, man, that's just fucking insane for us. But
for two guys that really aren't the draws that, or at least not the proven draws that they maybe now are.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I just feel like strike while the iron's hot. You do a Pacquiao pay-per-view, and I don't even want to be like the guy that's going crazy, but it might do 700,000 views, like buys, and fucking they put that in Dallas. Man, how many people go to that? Like, I don't know. I just wonder if like that Spence is going to lose some momentum if they can't get the right fight, and then they try to do Pacquiao, and then he loses some steam, you know, coming off of obviously like a fight that a lot of people cared about.
Fu, I mean, you seem like you're pretty set on Thurman beating Pacquiao. Is it that obvious? Like, is it that one-sided?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But because the things that make Pacquiao great, like even now, the things that really are impressive about Pacquiao won't exist against Thurman. Like he'll catch Thurman, he'll hit, it'll be a good display. But overall, Thurman's not going to come in against Pacquiao like he did against Lopez. He's not.
I don't know,
if
man.
If he takes a Pacquiao fight, like he's gonna fight to the level of his competition. You know.
I'll put it this way: if this looks like a Pacquiao Timothy Bradley 3 fight, maybe don't be as shocked as the boxing world will be. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, Pacquiao's still impressive, man. Look, Pacquiao did better against Broner than Mikey Garcia did. But now we've kind of seen Mikey Garcia is not that great of a boxer. Like, he's probably been a little bit of a weight bully. Like, I don't want to talk mad shit about Mikey, but let's be real. No one thought Spence was the boxer that he is until he fought Mikey. And Mikey was supposed to be the small guy that outskilled.
No. I think that's more of a credit to Spence than anything to take away from Mikey.
I don't know, man.
But see, this is why you don't think. See, you think Spence is dog shit. It's okay. You're a fake Dallas fan.
I don't think Spence is dog shit.
You just
Not
lie.
At all.
You
I
lie.
don't think Spence is dog shit. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. Spence needs to really he needs to do what Ryan Garcia needs to do and shut the fuck up about somebody that's going to just destroy him. And
who's that?
Spence talking about Canelo, he needs to shut the fuck up with that.
It's an April Fool's joke.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Guys, hold on. Look, Fu. I know you're you're sort of a casual at times, and like same with like Mr. DAZN. Like, do people not understand? Hold on. Let me finish my point. Do people not understand that like April Fool's Day has a long storied history in combat sports? Like honestly, like this is just a known
I don't pay
thing.
attention to April Fool's that much. Like, I literally was like, hey, Errol Spence had the best April Fool's joke, but I didn't even realize it was an April Fool's joke. Like, because he's mentioned that he would fight Canelo back in the day. So, like, dude, yeah.
And also, I will say this. It's April Fool's.
I'm not a Spence hater.
Secondly, Canelo doesn't destroy Spence, man. You're tripping. You're tripping.
You are crazy.
He beats Spence, but he doesn't destroy him. You're just
fucking destroys him.
No. You're crazy.
Man, there was a point you called me a Canelo hater. when we were talking about the first Triple G
You're
fight,
just a hater. That's what you are.
you were like, he's the Canelo hater, right? You do not rate Canelo as highly as he deserves to be rated.
Me?
I'm going to tell you that right now. Yes.
No.
You don't think that he obliterates Errol Spence.
No.
That, defensively, he will make him look silly. And then he will kill Spence to the body. Spence couldn't end Mikey Garcia.
Look.
Like, Canelo.
No. Foo. Canelo beats Spence, but that's a decision. That's a 12-round fun fight.
Oh, I don't think that goes to decision, man. That's a hard step up, man. 2 weight classes against a guy who stopped, like, obviously not the greatest 168-pounder, but let's be real, like, Canelo's no joke.
I didn't say he's no joke, but neither is Spence, man. This is why I think you're a Spence hater, because Spence and Canelo are both top 10 pound-for-pound guys.
What would Canelo do to Kell Brook?
Right now in 2019?
No. Let's say even just when Brook fought.
I'm like, man, that's mean.
What would Canelo have done to him then?
I think the fight probably looks similar in some ways. I think Canelo wins probably by TKO round 8 to 12. No, round 8 to 12. I don't think it's a brutal knockout. Fam. Honestly, Canelo's not the knockout artist you think he is. What are you talking about? Run down his highlight reel knockouts. Go. You got Khan.
Oh man, the one I
James
think of
Kirkland.
Khan,
James Kirkland, really? Like, come on, man. Like, you got 2 in there. We can pick Angulo, who he beat into submission, who was like 48 years old. Like, come on. Canelo's not a knockout artist.
It's like more like TKO shit, but he and Spence, man, that would be a terrible fight.
And look, I know I know you don't know this, but I've been next to Canelo and next to Spence, right? I've been shoulder to shoulder with those 2 guys. They are the same height and roughly the same size.
Oh, Canelo's he doesn't even look like a big guy.
No, he's not.
You know? He's just fucking muscular as shit.
He's a fire hydrant, you know? Like, he's a short, stocky guy. But he's a short guy. Like, he's only like 5'8", 5'9". He's my height, dude. Like, he's not a big guy. Spence is my height, you know, like, if not maybe an inch taller than me. So I don't think it's, I'll put it this way. Yes, it's a clear win for Canelo, obviously due to the weight disadvantage. But it's not Loma Rigo. It's not Canelo Khan. It's much more like Mayweather Marquez.
Or Spence Mikey.
What?
Or Spence Mikey. It's more like that.
No. Spence Mikey was far more brutal than. Have you seen Mayweather Marquez? Have you seen Mayweather Marquez? You're tripping.
Yeah.
You hater. And also, April Fool's Day, guys. Come on. Like, be smart. Be aware. It's April 1st.
Yeah, how do you know Mr. DAZN's call wasn't an April Fool's Day? You getting all mad and all heated? Not the chat all, like, scared to talk?
The chat's not scared. The chat was laughing.
When I'm not on the show, you just get crazy.
Shut up, fool. And you know that. Come on. Come on. The whole Ryan Garcia, Gervonta beef, and people thinking that Ryan Garcia actually beats Gervonta Davis is fucking laughable. Gervonta would whoop that boy's ass.
I mean, there's not many people at 130 to 135 pounds Gervonta doesn't beat.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, realistically.
I think he beats Tevin Farmer.
Easily.
Whoa, I didn't
Unless
expect.
Tevin Farmer really goes 100% on just being a stick and move boxer, like being a straight defensive, just fucking counter-punching boxer and winning every fight 12 rounds on points, and he can stay away from Davis, that's his only chance. He tries to play in the pocket like he did against Carroll, he get laid the fuck out. it would be like maybe a 5-round fight if he fights like that. He gets silly, gets on the ropes, trying to like with all that head movement. Gervonta's gonna lay him the fuck out.
I agree. I think realistically, the only person he loses to at 130 pounds to 135 pounds is Lomachenko. Maybe a Butchelt, maybe a Richard Comey, maybe somebody like that. But I think everyone else he beats.
Like a Luke Campbell because of his size, if he's fight smart.
Nah.
But we've seen Campbell can be chinny, like flash knockdowns. Like if he gets caught right. That's the only thing with Campbell that's questionable because he was beating Linares. Like he should have beat Linares, but he had the flash knockdown. But yeah, Teofimo Lopez is a good fight. I mean, but I think he'd still probably beat Lopez. I mean, realistically, Tank's a great boxer. Like he's fast. He's a great hand speed, great punch accuracy, crazy power. Like, I mean, Loma would outbox him, but, hey, Loma's been caught too. He got hit a lot against Pedraza, so, well, not a lot. I mean, I think old people overplay that. Like, some people just mark up really bad even when they defend in their defensive stance, but, so, I don't know. What else did you talk about? I'm driving home on this fucking brutal 2-hour drive.
Obviously, we have the Klitschko April Fool's jokes. If you want to talk about Klitschko, the zone. We have the Burchell.
Wait, that was an April Fool's joke?
Shut up.
I'm just fucking playing.
We have the Burchell Vargas Navarrete Dogbay doubleheader. Callum Smith being on the Joshua Miller undercard. All the fights this weekend. Lebedev Okolie. Charlie Edwards, Julio Cesar Martinez. That's about it.
Oh, okay. That Edwards Martinez fight's going to be fucking fire. What a good fight! Is it happening or possibly happening?
Possibly, maybe.
Which is it?
Maybe,
okay.
Maybe.
That's a good fight. Edwards is, damn. Okay, get after it, Charlie. You're a great guy.
Also, very quickly,
Okolie.
that
Okolie, Jesus Christ.
Before we get into that Lebedev Okolie fight and how much Okolie sucks, because I do want you to shit on Okolie, just because I know Rob will love it. Remember that the Burchell Dogbay doubleheader is going head to head with the Jarrett Hurd J-Rock Fox card. So a little ratings war between PBC and Top Rank there.
Okay. Oh, shit. I think Top Rank wins that, though. I don't know, man. I'm not sold on Swift, on Jarrett Hurd's viewership, man. It's not been great.
But it's Fox.
Like, we'll see.
But it's Fox. Like, no matter what, it's going to do. It's going to do over 1 million no matter what. You got to think about it in that perspective, right? And I don't know if a Burchell Dogbay doubleheader does 1 million. I don't know that.
Yeah, probably not. You're right. Dude, I hope Jarrett Hurd gets great viewership numbers.
Of course, because he's awesome.
Jarrett Hurd, like I said in the past, is 100% the fighter everyone should support. The dude fucking fights everybody. Like, let's support guys who actually are working to unify belts and willing to get in there with everybody. But I hate those matchups on the other side anyway. I guess Burchell Vargas isn't terrible. It'll be a fun fight to watch probably. But Dogbay right back in the fucking fire with Navarrete or whatever. Fuck, man. Like, I whooped his ass. Like, it was terrible to watch. I just don't know how they come back from that and make anyone think he has a chance to win. He just didn't really do anything in the first fight. Am I just being super critical? Like, he didn't do anything.
No, he was competitive for the first 4 or 5 rounds, I would say, but no, I mean, I don't know if you heard it earlier in the show, but I was really critical of the matchup. I think it makes no sense. At the very least, it
makes no sense.
At the very least, it's just poor matchmaking, and at the worst, it's promotional malpractice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that fight. I'm not even super stoked about that. I would like to see maybe who else is going to be on that card as far as maybe other fun fights. But that just was not a fun fight for me. I mean, it just wasn't. Let's be real. Like, Navarrete is not a great boxer. Like, he won on size and just fucking sheer bully, tactics versus Dogbe. It's just not. It's not pleasing to watch. So I'll be watching Jarrett Hurd for sure versus J-Rock. So
that's a great fight too.
That's where it's at.
Plus you got plus you got Korobov, Aleem as the co-main, and Mario Barrios on the card. That's a good PBC card. Honestly, that's a really good card.
That's a good card. Hell yeah. I really like Mario Barrios. I can't wait to see, like, is it a good step up in competition or what?
It's not a bad one. It's not bad. He's somebody that I want to say he fought Regis Prograis recently. Like it may have been either the fight or two before he went to the World Boxing Super Series. It's one of his ESPN opponents, I want to say.
Cool. That's a good card. I mean, everyone should be watching that card over that ESPN card. The ESPN card shit. I don't. There'll be some fun fights. I really like Berchelt, and I really don't think he gets enough props at 130. And a lot of people don't even really know him or care about him. And he's honestly, he could give Tank some real trouble. He's a tough motherfucker, and he's got some monster power. So I'd love to see that fight get made someday, hopefully. But reviewing the weekend, Liam Smith looked great. I don't know what Gary was on that night, but Jesus, he was really hating on Liam Smith. I think there's some good fights to be made for Smith at 154. Looks like Fitzgerald, had a hell of a fight against Thurman. Really did his thing, and it looks like he's going to get the Cheeseman fight. I don't know where that leaves Fowler. I mean, let's be realistic. Where do you see Fowler going from here?
Tune up city.
Tune up city for a few fights?
Oh, yeah.
Back to 6-rounders or 10-rounders or?
What was this? Was this a 12-rounder? Or a 10-rounder?
It was a 10.
I would say an 8-rounder or a 6-rounder. I would say probably an 8-rounder would be smart. 8-rounder would be smart.
Yeah, I mean, I like Fowler. I really do. I think what's great about Fowler, what really is impressive to me is that he's got, some of those, sometimes you can tell when a trainer isn't realistic about the loss. And David Coldwell is just a real fucking guy. And he just said point blank, like, he believed in his hype too much. He got on Instagram and Twitter and he started getting too into social media, started to believe that, I don't think he was listening to Coldwell's direction very well in that fight. If you listen to the interview with Boxing Social, he even kind of says, when you don't take direction and you think you're a machine that can't be hurt, you're the Terminator, and then you want to trade with guys when you could just outbox them easily, you're going to suffer losses like this. And that was just very brutal and honest from Coldwell. So I feel like Fowler will bounce back okay because I think he's got a trainer who's not going to sugarcoat shit for him, and I think that's the undoing of a lot of boxers is, the trainer doesn't really want to be as real as they should be with their fighter,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, those were some good fights. What else did we have this weekend? Garcia fought, 2nd round knockout, right? Not much to see there. I kind of watched it today after we talked. It's the power seems to be coming up a little bit for Ryan Garcia under Chapo, Reynoso, and probably training with Canelo a little bit. Maybe they got to meet the Mexican beast. Who knows? But I don't know, man. I'm with you. We need to see more. We need to see more because right now, let's be real. They wouldn't even put Ryan Garcia in there with Devin Haney. They need to stop talking about anything with Tank Davis. Haney's not stepped in with near the level of competition that Tank Davis has, and they're not going to be rushing to put him in that kind of a fight. So, I think he's still a very raw prospect. Like you said, he needs the Wilder treatment, And they realistically, man, if you're a fan of Ryan Garcia and you're comparing him to Oscar De La Hoya, you are doing that kid a disservice because Oscar De La Hoya was great. Oscar De La Hoya was a great fighter, and that kid is not there yet. And it's like trying to compare, when they did this to James DeGaulle. You can't come in and say, oh, he's the next Floyd Mayweather. It's going to be the British Floyd Mayweather. Just, no. It's too much pressure. Just let him be himself. He doesn't have to be the next Oscar De La Hoya. He could be a great, fun fighter that, does well, but he's going to be brought along very carefully. He needs to be. He's not polished enough. There are not very many people even a Teofimo Lopez, who, let's be real, is going to be fast-tracked. But there's not a lot of guys who can be fast-tracked like that.
Yep.
Well,
think about it. They're in the same division. Imagine Teofimo Lopez versus Ryan Garcia tomorrow. Who wins?
Fucking ruins them. It's crazy. Right?
Oh, absolutely. I think you throw in even a Tommy Coyle from the UK, he beats Ryan Garcia right now.
Yeah. Because the problem with Garcia is his hand speed's great and his power is looking better, but his defense is dog shit. And you cannot put him in there with anyone that can punch, because as soon as you do, he's going to get exposed. Because, there's tons of stories about him getting laid out and sparring and stuff. I don't think he is that super tough guy who's going to be able to get in there and trade shots at this point in time. Maybe as he gets some more fights and maybe even goes up in weight, I don't know, but his qualities are better suited for showcases right now. He's just, I don't mean to say he's just an Instagram celebrity type guy, but that's kind of what he is right now. He doesn't have a resume to speak of. He doesn't have any fights that have really tested him or where we've seen him take a shot or anything like that. But to be fair, Lopez doesn't either. Yeah, but I think Lopez will prove to stand that. You could put him in the fire and he's going to be fine.
Absolutely. And
I don't think Garcia will be.
Again, if you're an astute boxing fan, you can watch Teofimo Lopez, you can watch Ryan Garcia and tell which one's ready and which one's not.
Absolutely.
I really shouldn't have to explain that, because I think a vast majority, 99.9% of us, are on the same page. And Gervonta Davis is, again, more accomplished than all these names we're talking about right now. So to act like he isn't better than them or not proven like them is ridiculous.
Yeah, refresh my memory. Who did Farmer win his belt from?
Oh.
Was it Fonseca? No.
No, it wasn't Fonseca. It was it Billy Dibb?
Was it Dibb?
It might have been Billy Dibb in a vacant belt, I believe.
I think you're right.
Because it was the belt that Loma vacated.
I think yeah. I don't want to take anything away from Farmer. He's a great boxer.
Yeah.
But the problem that I think Farmer's running into is an identity crisis. Because you can't come out on Twitter saying, man, if you fight in the pocket and get hit, you can't satisfy people. If you fight defensively, then you're boring. Why are you worried about what people say about you on the internet? You're supposed to go in there and win fights. You do that your way. You know? You can't go in there and doubt yourself because people put on Twitter that it's boring to watch you fight for 12 rounds and be super defensive. You just do your thing.
Agreed.
And so I don't think he can, if he gets in there with Tank and he wants to try to impress fans by being all flashy and doing that, trying to dodge 5 punches before he finally gets off the ropes, there's no way. There's no way. He wouldn't even beat Burchett like that. Let's be real. Like, Burchett would beat him. So, Farmer's he's got to own up to the fighter he is, and he's not a power puncher. He's not someone who's going to get in the pocket and lay somebody out. It's a long night for him if he's in there. So he needs to go back to, counter punching, getting some really nice combinations and getting out and then resetting and making the guy come to him and catching him again. And keeping him on the move. But Tank Davis is the best 130 pounder. And honestly, there's not even going up another level to 135. Like you said, I think Loma's the only person who gives him a test. And Loma could only make one mistake and it could get laid out. I'm a huge Loma fan. Davis is dangerous.
Absolutely. There's a reason why we talk about those two guys. Like, there's a reason why the public talks about Loma and Tank Davis. It's not because Tank Davis isn't good.
Yeah. Yep. Anything else? What else you got?
Did you see the Tito Costa fight, or are you too much of a casual?
I haven't seen it yet. I know you said it's the best fight of the weekend. I'm definitely going to watch it.
Okay, that's about it. That's all we have.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Just relax, man. All right.
Peace. So we're going to stay in Dallas and go over to Gary in Dallas. Gary, what's up?
I wanted to, well, first off, how you been, Matt? How's everything going?
I'm good, man. I'm a little bit under the weather. I'm a little bit sick, but I'm hanging in there.
Is that what's been going on?
No.
Oh, you did okay.
No.
I wanted to talk about Mr. DAZN's call when he was talking about Garcia and Tank Davis.
Okay.
You're right. Of all the names.
Wait, hold on, Gary.
Tank Davis has. Yeah.
I just want to dwell on that for a little bit, man. I don't think I've ever heard you say those words to me before, so just nice, man.
That you're right?
Yeah. Great, man. It's great.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, you can go on.
Pedraza's a great name. It's a great name. It's a great win, and especially the way that he beat him.
Yes.
That had to be at least 2+ years ago, right?
Yeah.
So he beat him when he was. Tank was 22 when he beat him. Who has he beat since? I know you're gonna say there's the other cat.
Cuellar.
What was the British guy's name?
Oh,
he beat Cuellar, but Cuellar.
Liam Walsh. He was a good prospect.
Liam Walsh.
Yes, he was a good prospect.
And he was okay.
Yeah.
He was a top 50 guy. I don't know that he was even a top 20 guy. So, to be fair, Tank Davis really only has one top 20 name of guys in his own weight class, right? Because
yes.
Cuellar was a featherweight.
Yes.
So you're right. That Ryan Garcia's got nothing. Ryan Garcia is being moved along very slowly, but he still is only 20. Right? Like Tank Davis didn't have any of those wins when he was 20 either. He beat Pedraza, I think, when he was 22, which is still really young. But Ryan Garcia would be a major step up in competition for Tank Davis. And I would pick Tank Davis to win. I think Tank Davis
not in his career. Let's be specific here.
The Pedraza fight is so long ago. It's like ancient history. It's like
I understand, but you have added caveats in all of your statements to be specific.
Sure, absolutely.
So I'm just adding that caveat for you because it's needed. Because otherwise, it's not true. It's a step up. It's a step up in competition for his recent competition, not career wise. But you're absolutely right, and especially in terms of not really his division, because Ryan Garcia is not even in his division. He's in a division above. So it's one of those things where even in your first statement about top 20 names in his division, Ryan Garcia is not even in his division. So it's weird. I don't know why we're even talking about this fight.
Well, because Garcia fought at 130 not that long ago. So
True.
And he's still young, so he could, if he wanted to make 130, I'm sure he could. He might weaken himself a bit, but I'm sure he could make it if he really wanted to. So the fight could be made, and it won't be made because those two guys won't work together to make that fight, and it doesn't make any sense to have Ryan Garcia. It's going to be tough for Garcia to get a world title anyway, because who's he going to beat, Loma or Mikey? You know what I'm saying? So he can't get a title at 135. It's not realistic anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he can make 130. He may have to go back down there because he's not getting a title at 135. Like, even if you think Ryan Garcia is the goods, he'll never be as good as Mikey or Loma. So, and those guys are still in their prime. So he can't get a title. So you got to try to figure something. You got to move him in weight, and that puts him down at 130. Again, if Ryan Garcia doesn't get a title shot for 4 more years, he's still only 24, right? I think he's not being rushed because Oscar doesn't think he's ready.
Of course.
In all seriousness.
Of course.
Okay.
But no, you're absolutely right. But that's why I think mentioning him with Gervonta Davis and saying that Mayweather is protecting Gervonta from Ryan Garcia is just a laughable statement.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah. Right, but if you wanted to argue the other side, Tank Davis over the last 2 years since the Pedraza fight, his resume has been absurd.
It has been, but it absolutely has been. But it's not been because of Ryan Garcia, or the protection from Ryan Garcia. You know what I mean? Like, it has nothing to do with that. I think what Fu said is probably more apt. That look, it's the same issue that Crawford's having right now at welterweight. He's on the wrong side of the street, or at least there's no one really on his side of the street that's relevant in his division. Tevin Farmer's at DAZN, Miguel Berchelt's on ESPN. So you have all the champions on different networks. On top of that, the division itself isn't that great. It's not a top-level division. It's not a stacked division. It's not a deep division. It's a transitional division. I think, honestly, Gervonta Davis is doing whatever he's doing because he's being mismanaged and he's just being he's doing what he's being told. And we can start talking about Gervonta Davis in a real sense when he moves to 135, because then PBC has some options for him.
You would definitely take Mikey Garcia to beat Tank Davis at 135, right?
Yes, I don't think Mike Garcia is going down to 135 again, though.
35? Okay.
Yeah.
Then at 30, would you pick Tank to beat Tevin Farmer if that fight happened?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know anymore. Like, it's been so long since we've seen Tank Davis fight somebody good. Like, is he still as good as he was?
Look, man, let's be honest here. You want to talk about Davis's competition level? Let's talk about Farmer's competition level. Billy did.
Farmer's competition level has not been. That was for a vacant title. You can't.
No. I don't care about whether it's for a title or not. Just pure competition level, right? Throw out the belt. Doesn't fucking matter, right? You know me. I don't care about the belt. I don't care about vacant belts. You know me, Gary. Billy Dibb, but James Tennyson, Jonah Carroll. Those names aren't really.
Yeah, those names aren't great. He just stays active all the time. He fights every 3-4 months. But you're right. The names.
He's on a bum of the month tour like Joe Louis. Let's be honest here.
I think Jonah Carroll's better than most people think he is. But you're right. He's at best the top 15 to 20 super featherweight. Like, that's really
best. Yes. And again, that'll only be because the division is arguably the worst division in the sport.
Well, it's got 130 you're talking about? It's got Pacquiao and Tank, and Pacquiao's good, right? I mean, you think Pacquiao's an excellent fighter, right?
Well, like I said, like I think heavyweights has great names, but that's still not the best division, right, Gary? You know, I think 130 has some good names, but it's not the greatest division. Let's be honest here.
Right, but 130 is always kind of a pass-through division, right? It's like it's not
140,
and it's not lightweight. It's that, yeah, it's like 140.
Yep.
It's like I'll just stay there while I can work some weight and hopefully move up to 35 or 47. It's that in-between division.
Yep.
Like 54 used to be like that, but then 54 started just becoming 47-pounders who got too big to make 47, like when De La Hoya and Fernando Vargas and Shane Mosley and Felix Trinidad all went to that division. 54 got really good, and Cotto and those guys kept it going. But yeah, 30 and 40 are kind of like stepping stones, right? I mean, how many times did Mayweather or Pacquiao fight at 140? 2 or 3? You know what I'm saying? It's just, okay, I worked that weight a little bit, and now I can go up to 47 where the big money is. I feel like 30 is the same way. So it's never really going to be stacked.
Yeah.
And then I want to talk about Keith Thurman versus
your boy
Manny Pacquiao. My boy. If Thurman does fight Pacquiao and Porter does fight
Spence. Yes.
They would both be in July, and they'd both be on pay-per-view?
No.
They couldn't do that, but Spence said, and I quote, "I'm fighting in July." And the other fight, I guess they would move the Thurman-Pacquiao fight to later in the year.
I mean, it is possible they do both of them fights in the same month. I just don't think it's likely. I think one of those fights gets moved. I think it's probably the lesser fight, which would probably be Spence Porter. And that fight's pay-per-view.
I was going to ask you, you think that's the smaller fight?
Yeah.
You think that's the lesser fight?
Yeah.
Okay. Because Pacquiao had a better B-side, a more recognizable B-side by every metric than Spence did. And the pay-per-view numbers were pretty close between Spence's pay-per-view and Pacquiao's pay-per-view.
Absolutely. But you also think about the marketing budget that Mikey Garcia had compared to Pacquiao Broner. Pacquiao Broner was all self-promoted. It was their name value that brought those buys in. They didn't put really any amount of money into the marketing for that fight. While Spence, Mikey, they had to literally make them into household names.
Yeah, there were more commercials for the Spence Garcia pay-per-view than there was the My Pillow guy. I mean, there were so many commercials and so much advertising for that Spence Garcia fight, right? You know, they probably had to make 300 plus pay-per-view sales to make their money back from all the money they put into advertising. But you're right, that was. I don't remember a fight being that heavily advertised. It was like commercials for that fight were just non-stop. But if you got both those fights, would you be content with the welterweight, like what you've gotten from the welterweight division this year?
Yeah. I know that's not the right answer to say, because the right answer is probably like, no, Spence or Crawford or nothing is good enough. But no, I mean, let's be honest here. If we get Pacquiao, Thurman, Spence, Porter, and Crawford doing whatever he's doing on ESPN, you know, lollygagging, galloping over there, whatever he's doing, still being number 2 to Lomachenko in terms of priority, let's be honest, which is it's apparent. Still getting pay-per-view fights with people that shouldn't be pay-per-view and no marketing behind it. Yeah, I think I'm okay with the welterweight division in 2019. I think I'm largely okay with it. I think Pacquiao-Thurman is a great fight. I think Spence-Porter has Fight of the Year written all over it. Danny Garcia, I think, is still going to be in fun fights this year. So I'm okay with this division right now. It's still, I mean, let's be honest. Those are still the top 5 guys fighting each other still. So I can't be upset about it.
Then I was going to say that, right? Because Crawford's got nothing, right? Because he can't even fight Kavazakis anymore, right? Because Kavazakis couldn't even beat Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah, God.
So that's not a viable option for Crawford's next fight. I know they made an offer to Danny Garcia. Let's say Danny Garcia scores a knockout over Granados, which I don't think he will, but let's just say he does. He looks great. Do you think they try to go that avenue again, try to make a Crawford-Garcia pay-per-view for the end of the year?
It's a possibility. I will say this though, if Garcia looks good and he comes away a little bit unscathed from the Granados fight, don't be surprised if Al Heyman comes in and says, you know, why don't we just put Spence Danny together? Like, that's the more marketable fight. Even though Porter has a belt, Danny's still the more marketable name of the two. And that fight's going to sell more. It's going to do more at the gate, blah, blah, blah. Danny is still a live dog to get a Spence fight, in my opinion. I think Crawford fight, even though that would be great, I think Danny would be much more happy with a Spence fight. And that is still a possibility.
What if Crawford Khan does 250 plus? All right.
Yes.
Then does a crossover hit between Spence and Crawford become profitable to the point where they have to make it? Right? Like they'll work together because there's too much money for them not to make it.
No. The way you phrased it, no. Is there enough money on the table for a Porter Crawford cross network fight on pay-per-view? If that pay-per-view does well, like your number 250 or above, which would still be a good number. No, I don't think there's enough money on the table for them to have to make it. No. Is there enough money on the table for them to make it? Potentially. But it's not enough for them to go, oh, we have to make it now. I don't see that.
If we don't get this fight, if we don't get Crawford and Spence at 147, if
Ever?
Spence outgrows this division, how much further do you think that guy can make 147? I mean,
he's good.
He says he makes it no problem, but boys, Spence is
I'll put
big.
it this way. Spence makes weight far more comfortable than Jared Hurd makes weight.
Yeah, Hurd already said he's leaving. This is his last year at 54.
Yep. Like,
so
Spence can go another 2 or 3 years. Easy.
If he can go 2 or 3 years, then you should get the Crawford fight.
Agreed.
Right? That should happen.
Agreed.
Okay, then there's nothing to worry about. Right? There's nothing to worry about. That's the best fight right now. Spence Crawford is the best fight that can be made in boxing. It's the best one.
On paper, yeah.
It's going to get made. But you're right. Right now, there's still, especially for Al, because Al can still make a bunch of money matching him up with his other welterweights. Bob Arum's going to have to work across the aisle. And you know what I'm saying? So he's going to have to split the pot anyway. So why wouldn't he just go after? You know what I'm saying? If you're only going to split the revenue, why not go after the biggest revenue fight, which would obviously be Spence?
Agreed. No, I agree.
All right. That's all I got.
Thank you for the call, Gary. Always a great time. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll be it for the show. Final thoughts time. I want to touch on something that Gary brought up with the whole like Bob Arum needing to work across the aisle. I think he's absolutely right about that, Gary. I think you hit the nail on the head. Bob Arum and overall Top Rank as a company, I think, is really in a hard spot right now. They don't really have a deep enough stable to accommodate, I think, the schedule that ESPN is asking of them. On top of that, they really don't have enough sort of draws in their stable to be commodities, to make their brand valuable in comparison to their market competitors, a la the DAZN umbrella, a la the PBC umbrella. However, I do think that Bob Arum, I do think that ESPN, I do think Top Rank will figure that out at some point. We'll have to. Otherwise, they're going to be in some rough business this year in terms of matchmaking. But digressing, guys, I am Matt, the Hipster Hunter. You can find me at Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms. Hit the like button on your way out. Share the show. Subscribe. Have a great night. Peace.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Who the fuck is that guy?
That's fucking illegal.
I'm Phil. I'm very Phil.
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
It's bullshit.
Where is this Burger King?
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
That's stupid! Use your common sense.
90 seconds.